Okay, just real briefly, I wanted to say hello and go over the syllabus, give us a little bit of a jump start since the summer session is fairly short. This is for Summer 1, 2023. It is Management 251, which is the OPPM course, Operations Production Project Management course. You will see in Blackboard that your textbook through McGraw-Hill has been linked. We will use that only for research and reference. So you must opt out of the book that has been selected by the university by June 5th if you intend to do so. So that's number one. Let's just go through the syllabus briefly. Easiest way to reach out and contact me if you need me is my Gmail account. I'm into that pretty much all day long. Any deliverables would be best sent to my NJCU and Gmail accounts to make sure I get them. So we start on May 22nd and we're done June 27th, which is relatively short. If there's confusion and from time to time there's a need to reach out, I'd like you to email me and let's work out a time where we can set up a private Zoom. I likely will set a time frame for doing voluntary Zoom sessions, and I'll get back to you with that pretty much within the next week or so. And this way, if there's confusion or we need to go over something in particular, it makes it a little bit easier to do. So obviously you can read most of the stuff on the syllabus, which is in the content section of Blackboard for the course, but we'll change things if and as we need to. So just be aware that it may turn out that we change some things. The textbook that has been chosen for you by the university is this one here, the third edition of Turwich. And that'll be changing next semester as I understand it, but this is what's available to you today. There is a second book, but there is no need to look at it, buy it, do whatever, as we'll do very little with that one. I want to just go through some of the things now as far as course description and course outcomes, learning outcomes. You can read through this yourself. We will be emphasizing a couple of 3, 4, or 5 areas specifically, and given the time frame that we have, that'll probably fill up all of our time, but we will be wrestling with forecasting. We'll be wrestling with something called PERT slant CPM, program evaluation and review technique slant critical path method. So that CPM thing. We will be looking at error and different kinds of error. And we will be looking at optimization using Microsoft Solver. So in terms of entrance competencies, so to speak, the ability to do some reasonable math. This is not a calculus course, so you don't have to sweat that. But the ability to work with some decimals and fractions and things like that are probably a helpful mechanism. Familiarity with Microsoft Excel and specifically the Solver add-in. So what you're going to have to do is on your laptop or whichever, look at your version of Excel in the search or question box, find out what it is you need to do to turn on the Solver add-in. It's already there, you just have to turn it on. I'd go through a step-by-step process, but everybody's version of Solver or Excel is a little bit different. So just figure out on your system what you need to do to turn on the Microsoft Solver add-in, which is part of Microsoft Excel. You need to have some capacity to analyze cases, obviously the ability to research a little bit and then to express those outcomes or results both orally and in writing. And then again, the proficiency in Microsoft PowerPoint is probably a helpful mechanism, as your final deliverable will somewhat depend on that. You can read through the learning outcomes as you get to it. And then in terms of grading criteria, which is something I know we're all grade phobic and so forth, but 35% will be what I refer to as home taskings, because I don't do homework, certainly not for hand-in, but I do expect the taskings to be done. So in terms of these taskings, it's usually to get you to view something, watch something, read something, and I'll know whether you have or haven't based on the posts in the discussion board on Blackboard and in your capacity to be able to do, for example, quiz 1 and quiz 2. There will be 2 quizzes. One is a forecasting quiz, which will come right after we're done discussing and working with the PowerPoints and somewhat text examples for forecasting. And then using the critical path method, or CPM, a textbook example called Frank's Fine Floats, there will be a quiz related to that. 20% will be discussion board postings, so I encourage you to keep up with that. And then your final project is somewhat of a written simulation referred to as Betty's Bats. That's going to be the lion's share of your grade. That is your final deliverable. If you opt out of the textbook, there are plenty of other sources where you can get general information, including the internet. These are a couple that I recommend. You do not have to purchase these. These are older editions that are available through sources like half.com for $5 or $10, and they're just older editions of different textbooks that actually have a tremendous amount of information in them for very low price. But again, these are not required. It's just an alternative if you choose to not keep the university prescribed textbook. Obviously, solver add-in, so on and so forth. If you have a Mac and that creates problems, sometimes you have issues with Excel in particular, you're going to have to solve that and figure that out. Obviously, the rest of the things, notices from special services and everything, or notices about special services, just do what you need to do in that regard. And then tentatively, this is kind of how we're going to progress and proceed. I would like us to go through some of the PowerPoints in the contents section. And there are a couple that work with the idea of introduction to operations and production project management, aka OPPM. There is a pre-test attached to the back of the syllabus. You need to take a look at that, do that, and submit it by the second week. That is not for grade, but it is something that is a requirement for the course, so I know how far to go with things like calculus and so on and so forth. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Chapter 15 of your text speak to different aspects of OPPM. The lion's share of what we're going to be doing the first week or so is going to surround the idea of forecasting, specifically 3-period, 5-period moving averages, 3-period weighted moving average, exponential smoothing, adjusted exponential smoothing. The most robust of the techniques we will entertain is the idea of linear trend line, which in essence is linear regression, which I'm sure we all remember with fondness from statistics. Project that we're going to be doing is Betty's Bats, and it involves manufacturing an aluminum baseball bat, at least from the production aspects. There is a video posted on bat production. It is not the technique that we will be wrestling with, but I'll speak to that at a later date. By the end of the second week, we will be doing the quiz. So that's something that you'll do and submit. And then shortly thereafter, we'll have the second quiz, which is on critical path method, CPM, which involves Frank's Fine Floats, which you will also find as a PowerPoint in the content section. We'll speak more to that. At some point surrounding this, idea of CPM in that time frame, I'm going to ask you to kind of replicate Frank's Fine Floats with a simple project. And we need to talk a little bit about what CPM is first. But I want us to be able to take something that we know how to do, whether it's change something simple. We're not going to make this an insanely difficult engineering course. We're not NJIT, so we're just not going in that direction. However, there are things that we do relatively frequently or with relative ease that we're familiar with. And I want us to be able to apply kind of a CPM process to that. So, for example, changing a tire. Well, simple enough, and intuitively we kind of know what to do. So we never really stop to think about the process of what we're doing. Same thing with baking a cake. We're baking cupcakes or cookies or something like that. Shopping at the store, wrapping a present, all simple things, but we never stop to think about what this process is because intuitively we just know how to do that. So we'll be doing that at some point. And again, that's going to be one of those taskings. It's not for grade, it's not for submission, but it's something that you will be able to share with the group, and it will emphasize certain aspects of CPM. We'll be getting to optimization using a couple of textbook examples. This HydroSpa, New World Electro being the simpler ones, leading up to something that is a bit more robust called Tropic Sun. But this idea of optimization is probably a cornerstone to production operations, project management, or as I phrase it, OPPM, because we're always trying to minimize something or maximize something. We're optimizing things, minimize costs, maximize profits. Now there is the ability in Solver to do sensitivity analysis as well, which is to, how would I say it? More of a targeted result, aimed toward a specific outcome. But in our case, especially with a shortened semester, we're either going to be maximizing something or minimizing something. And that's what this whole thing about using Solver and these examples of HydroSpa, New World Electro, and ultimately Tropic Sun, that is what this is about. Now, this is what we're going to use as one of the pieces in our Betty's Bats final production. We'll be talking a little bit about tolerances and error, and when we get to that, we'll be taking some of the data that we use in some of the text examples and perhaps even in a Betty's Bats type example, and develop some understanding of error and statistical process control and things like that. And then at the end of this very short semester, June 27th, our final deliverable, Betty's Bats, will be due. You can read the rest, which is just basically about that pre-assignment and so forth. But a couple of things. One, don't panic. This is simple stuff. It will become very familiar to you very quickly. There's nothing hard about what we're doing here. It may be a little tedious from time to time, but that's about it. So minus all of the reading and the videos that you're going to likely watch and the PowerPoints that you're going to view and so forth, what we're doing here really surrounds, especially in this short semester version of MGMT 251, we're talking about forecasting. We're talking about using some project management tools, PERT CPM. We're talking about the idea of optimization, maximizing something, minimizing something. We're talking about error and the different types of error and how we might address error in an OPPM environment. And then we're going to try and pull some of this stuff together. Now, some of the changes that we may incorporate, well, we may incorporate a little bit of expected value if we have the time and things come together. We may incorporate the idea of trade-off matrices, what some refer to as a trade-off matrix, and things like that. But we'll talk about that during this semester. So I'm just giving you a heads up on the syllabus so you read this and you don't panic and so forth. In terms of deliverables, do the discussion board, 2 quizzes, your final project, Betty's Bats. That's it. The rest is reading, listening, watching, viewing. Discussion board posts, 2 quizzes, Betty's Bats. Have a great day, and we'll be chatting again soon.